Welcome to my Sacred Revenge channel, where betrayal isn't just exposed, it's answered.
I'm Margaret, 67 years old, and I thought I knew everything about my husband. Thomas, after 45 years of marriage, we'd built a life together in our elegant Victorian home in the quiet town of Willow Creek, filled with shared Sunday dinners, morning coffee rituals, and the kind of love that grows stronger with time. Our son, Daniel, and his wife, Sophia, were part of that life until one autumn evening, when a whispered secret shattered everything I thought I knew. It was a crisp October night, the kind where the air smells of fallen leaves and the dining room glows with the warmth of candlelight. The table was set with my mother's heirloom china, each piece a reminder of family traditions. Daniel, 35, sat across from me, his warm brown eyes crinkling as he smiled at his wife. Sophia, 29, with her sleek auburn hair and piercing grey eyes radiated a strange intensity. She was beautiful, but there was always something about her, a sharpness, like a predator sizing up its prey. That night, her glow wasn't the soft warmth of happiness. It was something triumphant, almost cruel. Daniel, oblivious as always, was cutting into his roast, praising my cooking with the enthusiasm of a boy who'd grown up on my meals. Thomas, my husband, sat at the head of the table, his grey hair catching the light, his gaze fixed on his plate. He hadn't met my eyes all evening, and it wasn't the first time I'd noticed. For weeks, he'd been distant, his usual warmth replaced by a quiet unease. I tried to brush it off, but the air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing. "Margaret, this roast is perfection," Daniel said, grinning. "You've outdone yourself again." I forced a smile. "Thank you, sweetheart." Sophia's voice cut through the moment, smooth as silk but laced with something sharp. "You're such a devoted wife, Margaret. It's inspiring." The way she lingered on devoted sent a chill down my spine. I nodded politely, but my skin pricked as dinner progressed. Sophia kept touching her flat stomach, drawing attention with subtle gestures. Her eyes glittered with a challenge I couldn't quite name. Thomas's fork clinked against his plate, the sound unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. Daniel, ever the optimist, reached for her hand. "Marriage is about building something together, isn't it?" "Oh, absolutely," Sophia purred, her gaze locking onto mine. "Sometimes it's about sharing what's already built." My heart thudded, though I didn't know why. The tension was suffocating, and Thomas still wouldn't look at me. Then Sophia stood, her movements graceful, almost theatrical. "I have news," she announced. "I'm pregnant." The room seemed to freeze. Daniel's face lit up with joy, and he leaped from his chair to embrace her. "Mom, Dad, you're going to be grandparents," he exclaimed, beaming. I should have been overjoyed. I should have been planning nurseries and knitting blankets. Instead, a cold dread coiled in my stomach. Sophia's eyes, over Daniel's shoulder, weren't on her husband. They were on Thomas, gleaming with triumph. "Congratulations," I managed, my voice hollow as Daniel poured champagne for a toast. Sophia moved around the table, stopping beside me. She leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "I'm pregnant with your husband's child, you foolish old woman," she whispered. The world tilted. My hands gripped the table, knuckles white. But instead of crumbling, I laughed, a clear, bright sound that echoed through the room. "Don't worry, dear," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. "Everything will be fine." Sophia pulled back, confusion flickering across her face. She'd expected tears, a scene. My calm unnerved her. Across the table, Thomas still wouldn't meet my eyes, and something inside me broke not my heart, but my trust in the life we'd built. Daniel raised his glass, oblivious, toasting to new beginnings. I smiled, played the part of the thrilled mother-in-law, but inside I was screaming. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? As the night ended, Sophia shot me one last smug look, and I knew I couldn't let this stand. That night, I lay awake beside Thomas, his steady breathing a cruel reminder of the stranger he'd become. Every creak of the house, every hum of the refrigerator, amplified my unease. By morning, I was moving through our routines like a ghost: coffee for two, eggs for Thomas, toast cut just the way he liked. But as we sat across from each other, I studied his face. At 73, he was still handsome, his features softened by time. Yet now, I wondered if I'd ever truly known him. "Sleep well?" he asked, eyes on his newspaper. "Fine," I lied. He stood, muttering about tending the garden. I watched him go, noting the slump in his shoulders. For months, he'd been working in the garden at odd hours, showering after every trip outside, claiming he didn't want to smell of earth. I'd believed him. Now, I saw the lie. After he left, I sat with my coffee, replaying the past months. The signs were there, if I'd chosen to see them. 3 months ago, Thomas started showering at strange times after gardening, before dinner. Even when we weren't going out. 2 months ago, I'd found unfamiliar charges on a credit card statement: $200 at a florist, $500 at a boutique. He'd said they were for my birthday, still months away. I'd trusted him. 6 weeks ago, Sophia began visiting more often, always when Daniel was at work, asking for recipes or marriage advice. She'd linger, talking quietly with Thomas, their voices stopping when I entered. Just discussing the garden, Thomas would say. Sophia, who once sneered at dirt under her nails, suddenly cared about roses. I'd been blind. The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Daniel, bubbling with excitement. "Mum, I couldn't sleep last night. This baby, it's everything. Sophia's already planning nursery themes." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," I said, my voice tight. "She told Dad last week," he added. Wanted to ease him into. "It isn't that sweet." Last week, a full week before the family announcement, my grip tightened on the phone. "When's her next appointment?" "Next week. She's nervous, but I'll be there." His voice softened. "She said Dad was emotional when she told him." I hung up, the puzzle pieces snapping together. Sophia's triumph, Thomas's avoidance, the whispered secret wasn't just an affair. It was something bigger, something uglier. I needed answers, but confronting Thomas directly felt too risky. If I was wrong, I could ruin our marriage. If I was right, I couldn't bear to think about it. I started watching them. Sophia's silver SUV pulled into our driveway at noon, her auburn hair gleaming as she walked to the garden where Thomas worked. From the living room window, I saw them talk, her hand resting on his arm, her laugh too bright. Thomas smiled a real smile, not the strained one he gave me. My chest ached. They spoke for 20 minutes before Sophia glanced at the house. I stepped back, heart racing, feeling like a spy in my own home. That evening, Thomas was almost cheerful, talking about spring planting and grandparenthood. "Sophia stopped by," I said carefully. "She seemed happy." "Yes," he nodded, cutting his steak. "She's nervous about the baby. First time mother worries." "What did you talk about?" "Oh, you know whether the baby will be healthy, if she be a good mom." His knife paused, just for a moment. That night, I decided I couldn't live with the uncertainty. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I began my investigation. I started in Thomas's study, a room I'd rarely entered without invitation. The heavy mahogany door creaked as I stepped inside, the scent of his cologne and old books filling the air. His desk was orderly, papers stacked, books shelved by topic, his leather chair angled to catch the morning light. My hands trembled as I opened the top drawer. Pens, notepads, business cards, nothing out of the ordinary. The second drawer held bills, all routine. But in the bottom drawer, under a pile of gardening journals, I found something that stopped my heart. Bank statements from an account I didn't know existed. The statements spanned 6 months, showing large, irregular deposits: $6,000, $10,000, Kingsy dollaries, and cash withdrawals in round numbers: $3,000, $4,500, $8,000. Where was this money coming from? Where was it going? My hands shook as I photographed each page, careful to keep the images clear. I replaced everything exactly as I'd found it, but the discovery left me reeling. This wasn't just about Sophia's claim. Something bigger was at play. The sound of tires on gravel snapped me out of my thoughts. From the window, I saw Sophia's SUV in the driveway. She didn't head for the front door, but walked toward the garden, where James, our gardener, was, raking leaves. James was in his late 30s, with kind hazel eyes and a quiet demeanor. He'd been with us for a year, tending our roses with care that had earned my respect. Now I watched as Sophia approached him, their conversation animated. They seemed familiar in a way that surprised me. Sophia handed him a thick envelope, and James glanced around nervously before tucking it into his jacket. Money. She was giving him money. But why? Before I could process it, Daniel's car pulled in. He waved to Sophia, who broke away from James with a bright smile. "Surprise," she called, wrapping her arms around him. "I was hoping to catch you for lunch." "What were you doing out here?" Daniel asked, laughing. "Talking to James about planting a garden for the baby," she said smoothly. "Something special for our little one." It sounded innocent, but I'd seen the envelope, seen James's unease. This wasn't about gardening. I slipped into the living room, pretending to read a magazine as they entered. "Mom, look who I found plotting with our gardener," Daniel teased. "Plotting." I kept my tone light. Sophia's laugh was forced. "Just asking James about flowers for a nursery garden. Something to welcome our son or daughter." "That's lovely," I said, meeting her eyes. "James is so knowledgeable." "He is," she agreed, her gaze holding a challenge. "Very understanding." The word understanding hung in the air, heavy with hidden meaning. They stayed for lunch, Daniel chatting about baby names, while Sophia's gaze drifted to the garden, where James still worked. She seemed distracted, not the confident woman who'd whispered her poison at dinner. When Daniel asked if she was okay, she brushed it off as pregnancy hormones, but I saw something else worry. Calculation. After they left, I watched James. He was agitated, glancing at the house, the street, his truck. Whatever Sophia had given him had shaken him. That evening, Thomas came home distracted, barely touching his dinner. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," he said, eyes distant. "Just thinking about the roses." The phone rang as we cleared the dishes. Thomas answered, his face pulling. "Yes, I understand. Tomorrow evening, I'll be there," he said. Quietly, he hung up, hand lingering on the phone. "Who was that?" I asked. "No one important," he replied, voice strained. "I have an errand tomorrow night. An errand at night." Thomas had never been one for mysterious outings. The next evening, I watched him leave at 7:30, claiming he was meeting someone about garden supplies. Garden centers weren't open that late. 20 minutes later, I heard voices in the backyard. Peering through the curtains, I saw Sophia and James by the garden shed, their conversation heated. James gestured wildly, clearly upset, while Sophia stood with arms crossed. At one point, he started toward his truck, but she grabbed his arm, arguing. Finally, he shook his head and drove away. Sophia stood alone, her face lit by the security light, looking cold and calculating. When Thomas returned, he went straight. to his study, closing the door. I heard him on the phone, his voice low and urgent. I lay awake that night, piecing it together. The secret bank account, the envelope, the late-night errand, the argument hit wasn't just an affair. It was something more sinister. The next morning, I decided to follow Thomas on his next errand. But first, I needed to search Daniel's old room, where Sophia sometimes stayed during her visits. I had a feeling her secrets ran deeper than she'd let on. Friday dawned grey and rainy. Thomas left early, claiming a hardware store run. I waited until his car disappeared, then climbed to Daniel's old room, now a guest room with soft green walls and white furniture. Sophia's touches were everywhere, silk scarf on the dresser, perfume on the nightstand. I checked the drawers, finding nothing unusual until beneath a stack of sweaters, I found a hidden folder. Inside were bank statements in Daniel's name, showing withdrawals he couldn't have made: $10,000, $18,000, $22,000. Credit applications for cards he'd never mentioned, loan documents for staggering amounts, and a handwritten list in Sophia's neat script. First National, $40,000. Credit line, $25,000. Personal loan, J. Carter, $15,000. My hands shook as I photographed everything. This wasn't about an affair. It was about money Daniel didn't have. The front door opened downstairs. Sophia's voice called out, "Margaret, I hope you don't mind me dropping by." I shoved the folder back and hurried downstairs. Meeting her in the kitchen. "Just wanted a chat," she said, her smile too bright. "Of course," I replied, pouring coffee. "Everything okay?" "You seem nervous," she observed, tilting her head. "Is something wrong?" "Just tired," I lied. "Pregnancy news is overwhelming." She sipped her coffee, watching me. "New babies can be unexpected." "Why?" "Did you tell Thomas about the pregnancy before Daniel?" I asked carefully. Her cup paused. "I was nervous," she said smoothly. "I wanted to make sure the family would be supportive. Thomas has always been so kind." "Kind," I repeated. "Protective, even." "He's worried about me," she said, leaning forward. "Financial pressures, you know. Young couples face tough choices sometimes." "What kind of choices?" I pressed. Her laugh was cold. "The kind that need understanding family members. Discretion. Your husband's been very helpful." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" She stood, moving to the window. "Thomas is a good man. He'd do anything to protect his family, even sacrifice his reputation." The words were a threat. I stared at her, realizing this wasn't just about a baby. It was about control. Voices outside interrupted us. Thomas and James, arguing by the shed. Sophia's face flickered with panic. "Excuse me," she said, hurrying outside. I followed, staying close enough to hear. The conversation stopped when Sophia approached, but the tension was palpable. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice sharp. James looked between them, troubled. "I can't keep doing this," he said. "Daniel doesn't deserve this." "James," Sophia snapped. "We had an agreement." "What agreement?" I demanded, stepping forward. They froze, guilt written across their faces. James looked at Thomas, pleading. "Tell her. She deserves to know." "Bess," Thomas whispered, his voice heavy. "I never wanted you to find out like this." "Find out what?" "It's not what you think," he said. "It's not what she wants you to think." Sophia laughed, sharp and cruel. "Oh, but it is, Margaret. Your husband, carrying on with his son's wife, so predictable." "Thomas," I said, searching his face. "Tell me." "I'm not having an affair," he said, voice breaking. "I'd never, but I can't explain without destroying Daniel's life," Sophia finished, smiling. "Your husband loves his son too much to tell him the truth about Me. James stepped forward. It's about the money, he said. Daniel's gambling debts, the accounts she made him open, the loans she pushed him into. James, Sophia warned. She's been blackmailing Thomas, James continued, threatening to ruin Daniel if he doesn't play along with her lies about an affair. My legs buckled. I grabbed the fence, staring at them. Gambling debts? Thomas nodded. Online betting. It started small, but he owes over $120,000 to dangerous people. She got him into it, James added. Encouraged him to bet bigger, then offered to help for a price. What price? I whispered. Silence, Sophia said. Cooperation. A marriage that gives me access to your family's wealth. Her hand rested on her stomach, and insurance for the future. The baby, I said. It's not Daniel's. It's mine, James said quietly. The rain fell harder, but I barely noticed. Sophia clapped mockingly. Well, the secret's out. What will you do, Margaret? I stood in the rain, the truth washing over me like the storm. My son, drowning in debt. My husband, blackmailed to protect him. Sophia, a manipulator who'd woven a web around my family, pregnant with James's child. I sat in my living room. For hours after they left, the weight of it all crushing me. How had I missed Daniel's addiction? How had I let Sophia's lies infiltrate our lives? The next few days were a blur. Thomas and I moved like strangers, the truth too raw to confront. He tried to explain, his eyes haunted, but I wasn't ready. Not yet, I told him. I need time. I thought about Daniel's gambling, how I'd missed the signs, his late nights, his stress, his excuses about money. I thought about Thomas, sacrificing his honor to shield our son. And I thought about James, who'd quit the next day, leaving a note apologizing for his role in the mess. I wasn't angry with him. He was another victim of Sophia's schemes. Tuesday morning, I heard water running in the guest bathroom. Sophia was back, treating our home like her playground. I waited until she went downstairs, then checked the bathroom. It was spotless, but behind the toilet, I found a crumpled envelope. My heart raced as I opened it, a DNA test from Willow Creek Labs, dated 3 days ago. It confirmed everything. Daniel was not the father. James was, with 99.7% certainty. Why would Sophia carry this? Then it hit me. Insurance. This was her. Leverage, proof she could use to paint herself as a victim, to claim Thomas had coerced her. She was always one step ahead, ensuring she held the power. Sophia appeared in the doorway. Margaret, I didn't know you were up here. Just checking the pipes, I said, slipping the paper into my pocket. You know how old houses are. She studied me, suspicion in her eyes. How's the pregnancy? I asked. Fine, she said cautiously. A little tired. My next appointment's next week. Daniel's coming. Isn't there anything you want to tell me? I asked softly. Her mask slipped, just for a moment, before the cold smile returned. The truth is subjective, Margaret. Sometimes what people believe matters more than facts. She paused at the door. I seemed to have dropped something from my purse. You haven't seen anything, have you? No, I lied, my hand on the paper. Nothing at all. After she left, I sat holding the DNA test, my mind racing. I could show it to Daniel, expose Sophia, free Thomas, but it would destroy my son. Just the betrayal, but the shame of his addiction. James would be dragged back into this mess, too. The truth had to come out, but not like this. Not yet. That evening, I found Thomas in his study, staring at papers he wasn't reading. I placed the DNA test on his desk. His face paled as he read it. Where did you get this? She dropped it, I said. I know everything, Thomas. The gambling, the blackmail, the lies. Why didn't you tell me? Tears filled his eyes. I couldn't bear for you to see Daniel the way you saw your father. My father had been a gambler, losing everything when I was a teenager. The shame had shaped me, and Thomas knew it. You thought I'd blame him. I thought it would break you, he said. I thought I could fix it to pay off his debts, get him help. But Sophia found out. She pushed him deeper, then offered to help if I played along with her story. Why? Time, he said. To cement her place in our family, to cover for the baby not looking like Daniel. She planned to blame me, say I manipulated. Her eye held up the DNA test. She made a mistake. Thomas looked at me, hope flickering. What's the plan? I'm hosting a family dinner, I said. And this time, I'll be the one with surprises. I spent 3 days planning, every detail precise. Sunday dinner would be perfect, Daniel's favorite foods, my best china, the stage set for a reckoning. I called Daniel, inviting them over. Just family, I said warmly. To celebrate the baby. Sophia's worried you're upset, he said. This will mean so much. Saturday, I cooked pot roast, fresh bread, apple pie. The house smelled of comfort, of tradition. Thomas watched, nervous but supportive. We can confront her. Directly, he suggested. No, I said. She thrives on drama. We'll give her quiet dignity and undeniable proof. Sunday, Sophia arrived in a dress that highlighted her pregnancy, her hand on her bump, radiating confidence. Margaret, this is wonderful, she said, kissing my cheek. Family's worth it, I replied, watching her closely. We ate, making small talk. Sophia played the expectant mother, but her eyes were wary. I waited until the main course, then steered the conversation. I've been thinking about genetics, I said casually. How traits pass down. Eye color, height, Daniel laughed. I've got Dad's eyes and your stubborn chin, Mom. I wonder what the baby will look like, I continued. Daniel's dark hair or Sophia's auburn, tall like us or petite like you. Genetics are unpredictable, Sophia said, her voice tight. Modern science is remarkable, I countered. DNA tests can confirm paternity even before birth. Very useful for family questions. Sophia froze, her fork hovering. Thomas set down his utensil, sensing the moment. DNA tests, Daniel asked, clueless, like ancestry kits. Among other things, I said, they can clarify relationships with near-perfect accuracy. Sophia's breathing quickened, but she held her composure. Odd topic for dinner, she said. Is it? I stood, retrieving a manila envelope from the sideboard. Sophia, you dropped something last week. I placed the DNA test on the table. Daniel frowned, reaching for it. What's this? Don't, Sophia whispered, but it was too late. I watched my son's face as he read confusion. Then, devastation. James Carter, he whispered, our gardener. The baby isn't yours, Daniel, I said gently. It never was. What followed was agony. Daniel's face crumpled as the truth hit not just the baby, but his gambling, his debts, Sophia's manipulation. She tried to spin a story, claiming Thomas coerced her, but the DNA test silenced her lies. You planned this, Daniel said, voice breaking. You pushed me to gamble, used my shame to blackmail Dad. I was helping you, she protested, by destroying us. He shot back. Thomas spoke, his voice heavy. Son, I never touched her. I let you believe the affair to protect you from your debts. I should have trusted your mother. Daniel looked at his father, torn between pain and gratitude. You didn't have to, Dad. Yes, I did, Thomas said. You're my son. Sophia's world collapsed. She packed that night, her bags piled by the door. "What about the baby?" she asked desperately. "It'll be fine," I said. "I've contacted James's sister in Tucson. She'll take you in until the birth, help you start over." "You arranged that?" she asked, stunned. "A chance to raise your child honestly," I said. "What you do with it is up to you." As her car vanished, I felt no victory, only relief. 6 months later, a photo arrived, a baby boy with James's hazel eyes. "His name is Ethan," Sophia wrote. "Thank you." Daniel joined a recovery program, facing his addiction with courage. Thomas and I grew closer, our marriage stronger for the truth. A year later, Daniel's new wife, Clara, gave us a granddaughter, Lily, with his dark eyes and her mother's smile. Sometimes, the greatest victories are quiet and not dramatic showdowns, but choosing truth over lies, forgiveness over revenge. At 67, I learned it's never too late to fight for your family. My weapon wasn't anger, but dignity, the refusal to let Sophia's lies define us. What would you do in my place? Share your thoughts below, and check out 2 more stories on our channel that'll leave you speechless.